Hey everyone, welcome back to the Comics Cube. I'm with Kimberly Smith, and we're talking about the comic books that kids read today.
Hi, as Dewey said, I'm Kimberly Smith, and I am a certified media specialist in Georgia, the state, not the country.
Is it
And
a state that saved democracy?
yes, go Georgia.
Good job.
I'm so proud of us.
If Georgia had won, if they'd won Georgia by 2 votes, that would have been like you and Ben.
Oh.
Good job. So what do you do? What's a media specialist do?
Well, back when I went to school, like 100 years ago, we were just called librarians. Now we're media specialists because there are so much more in libraries than just books these days.
Mm-hmm.
And you gave me an odd look there. What does that mean?
I was just adjusting my seat.
Oh, I thought you were going to ask me what's in a library other than books.
What is in a library other than books?
Well, we have videos and we have books on tape. We have digital or internet books.
Like on a
CDs,
Kindle?
Or you can get them through website, like
Okay.
Audible.
Okay. Audiobooks, you have audiobooks?
Well, we're in elementary school, so we don't. But other schools in our district do, like the middle schools and the high schools.
Okay. And you have comic books?
We do. I'm very proud of our comic book selection. When I first started working in our media center, we didn't have a whole lot of comic books. They're kind of, I would say, frowned upon in elementary school libraries because kids are, they're just learning to read, and the teachers and the parents, and they want them to be reading, I don't know, higher level
books,
reading
books.
And I just don't agree with that because, I think that, as long as they're reading something.
Yeah. And if you're reading something like, I'm sorry, people, but this may as well be a comic book.
Really should. I mean, a lot of the words in there aren't actually real words.
They're not real words.
And some of them are pretty hard to pronounce. Yeah, so I convinced them to get a really nice selection of comic books, and we had a student. It was 4th grade a couple years ago. He would come in and he would walk around the media center, and he would leave without getting a book, and then his teacher would send him back because you have to get something. And he would just like pull something off the shelf, and I knew he wasn't really reading it. So the end of that year is when we got our comic selection. And the beginning of the next year, he'd come in, and I introduced him to the comic book selection, and he went through it pretty quickly. And then he started on our Goosebumps series. And if you've ever read Goosebumps, you know that it doesn't have any pictures in it. Yeah. And I was so proud of him. So that's when I discovered that comic books can be a gateway to further reading. And I did my master's thesis on comic books in school libraries. And I brought some here.
What was the comic? What was the comic that you used as a gateway? The first one that kid got? Oh, that one.
Dogman.
Dogman by Dave Pilkey.
Very, very, very popular. We have at least 2 or 3 of each book in the series, and I cannot keep it on the shelf. It goes out before I can even get it back to the shelf. And as you can see, we've got your classic comic panels here. So it is an actual comic book. I know we had someone saying that it wasn't a real comic. It has panels. It's a comic.
A common misconception around the internet that because it's not a monthly comic, it's not a real comic.
It is a real comic.
A real
it has
comic.
Panels.
Yes. By the creator of Captain Underpants, right?
Yes, by the creator of Captain Underpants.
Mm-hmm. Even and it's more comic booky than Captain Underpants. I think Captain Underpants is
Yes,
more.
I didn't actually bring Captain Underpants, but I did bring Bad Kitty, and it's kind of like Bad Kitty in the sense that it has pictures with a few words,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not your typical, completely comic panel.
What's Dogman and Bad Kitty? That's funny.
Yes, Bad Kitty is a little different. I brought it because I wanted to explain. Let's see. When kids first start learning to read, they read in your basic big picture books. We call them easy story books. And then, some of the teachers or the parents want them to go straight to your books like this, full of words.
Oh wow!
And there's not a lot, in between.
So it's a bit of a jump there.
Words. Yes, and so that's why I like comic books, because as opposed to stuff like Bad Kitty, which has a really low reading level, I think it's in like the 300s. You have some of these other comics that still have the pictures, but their reading levels are much higher.
So what is Dogman? Dogman is like the highest selling comic book today, by far. But what is Dogman about? Because I've never read it, and I probably never will.
I haven't read them cover to cover, but it's basically what you would think it is. It's about a dog who's a superhero, and he goes around solving crimes.
That thing is bound to be made into a movie at some point.
Oh, I'm surprised it hasn't been.
I'm surprised it hasn't. Yeah.
I mean, Captain Underpants has, and the kids absolutely love Captain Underpants. I find it to be annoying, but as long as they're reading something. But I like I like Dogman better because, most of the comic books we have those nice, thick, glossy pages.
Yeah.
Whereas Captain Underpants, the pages are really thin. And they're not glossy, and they get ripped, and it's
like notebook type paper. Captain Underpants, yeah.
And they have something in them. The Captain Underpants has something in them called a fliporama, where you take your finger and you flip through them really fast. And with the cheap pages, they just don't last long, even with the library bindings.
So, Dogman, you can't keep it on the shelf. Do kids actually borrow them and read them and talk about them among each other, or?
Yes.
So there is a Dogman fandom.
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. We get kids in there. Can you hold the next episode, or the next book for me, because I've read all of them, but this book, and I'm like, I'm sorry, I can't hold the books for you because it's so popular. It's first come first serve when it comes to the Dogman. They go out before school even starts.
So how old are these kids? How old are these kids who are into Dogman?
We allow second graders through fifth graders to check out the comic books. Kindergarten and first grade has to stick with the lower reading level books until they learn how to read.
So in around 20 years, there will be like massive fans of Dogman who are like coming into the profession of comics, and we can expect like a grim and gritty Dogman reboot.
Oh, probably, yeah.
Okay,
it'll be dark. It'll be dark like Batman.
I'm Dogman.
Where's the trigger?
That's so awesome though that people that's so awesome. It blows my mind that there is a Dogman fandom. Anyway.
Oh yeah, super. It is the most popular book in our media center, followed by Diary of a Wimpy Kid.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, I know Diary of a Wimpy Kid it was big like about 10 years ago too. So what else?
Well, it's still big.
What else did you bring?
I brought Ook and Glook.
Are they cavemen?
They are. It's not in color, but kids still love it.
Do kids not really care about it being in color? Is that just us?
They prefer it to be in color. Like most of the Captain Underpants books look just like bad guys here. They're that thin paper, and they're not in color. But we have gotten a couple in color, and the kids, they do prefer to get the colored ones.
Do you have a kind of a basic, kind of profile for the kid who would borrow Ugin or just anyone?
What else they would check out?
Yeah, I guess so. Like, I mean, boys, girls.
It does not matter. I have this saying that when I hear a student say that's a girl's book, I will say there is no such thing as a girl's book or a boy's book. There are just books.
Mm-hmm.
We have a first grade boy who comes in, and he really loves Disney princesses. He'll get all the Disney princess books. And so our comic books, boys, girls, they check them out.
That's awesome.
The same. Even our, let me find it.
Phoebe and Her Unicorn.
Very popular. We have 2 copies of each book in the series, and boys check it out. Not as much as the girls check it out, but boys still check it out.
It's still funny.
Yeah.
It's funny.
I read color.
Unicorn.
Yep.
Dana Simpson was my second ever guest on the show.
Yep. That was pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's a really funny comic. So that leads me to my next question. Phoebe and Her Unicorn is basically Calvin and Hobbes, except with a girl and her unicorn. So do you have Calvin and Hobbes in your library?
I have suggested that we get Calvin and Hobbes, but was told that it's a little harder to understand for elementary school students. Some of the panels are harder to understand, I guess. I actually have, let me grab it over here.
Blam! I read it in elementary school.
I think I did too, but oh my goodness. I love Calvin and Hobbes.
Oh, wow.
I have the whole series here. And I do have Hobbes on my arm. Teddy bear
Hobbes.
form. Yeah.
Teddy bear form.
But we do have Garfield.
There's Garfield with his teddy bear whose name I can't pronounce.
Pookie.
That is a dirty word in my language.
Oh, is it?
I'm surprised Garfield is still being read by the kids.
Oh, we have at least, I'd say, 20 copies of Garfield, and again, I can't keep them on the shelves. They are just as popular as Dogman.
What?
Yeah, I'd say Garfield, Dogman, and Diary of a Wimpy Kid are our 3 most popular.
Garfield. People are still reading. Kids are still reading Garfield.
We just bought this one last year, so it's a newer one, and you can see I brought the books that were in the best condition. We had to weed some of the Garfield because they were just disintegrating.
That's incredible. I didn't even realize he was still big, because I'm subscribed to Garfield, the daily strip on Go Comics, and that's just out of habit because it's just terrible now. It's not funny.
Oh, is it?
But what these comics seem to be of quality because they're not.
These are the older strips. Ones.
Oh, they're the older ones.
Yeah.
They're reading the older strips. That's so awesome.
And some of them aren't in color, and they just love them.
Did they ever get so old that it's got the original Garfield walking around, the one that is on all fours?
We had, those are the ones we had to weed because they were the books that were about this big.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had to get rid of those.
Crazy. That's crazy.
Super popular.
What else you got?
Let's see. We've got some Big Nate.
I've heard about this book. What's it about?
I've never read this one. It does pretty well. It kind of reminds me of Diary of a Wimpy Kid for comics.
Yeah.
In comic form, but I've never read this one.
Because Diary of a Wimpy Kid is not a comic.
No.
It looks like a comic if you pick it up by the cover, but it's more. It's like Captain Underpants, right?
Yeah, it's like Captain Underpants and like Bad Kitty or the Bad Guys book here. It's got a lot of pictures, but it's not really in panel form.
So this is funny. You're showing me, aside from Big Nate, you're showing me a lot of books that have talking animals in them. So talking animals still work with the children today.
Yes, they prefer them, I would say, more than the human characters. Even in the books that do have all words, no pictures, they prefer the fairies, or like Warrior Cat series. It's a bunch of cats.
Warrior Cats.
Warrior Cats is very popular.
Okay.
And then there's a second series of the Warrior Cats where it goes on to other animals like bears, and we have like 20,000 books. I haven't read them all. I would love to.
So theoretically, these kids would end up loving the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Holy shit. Does that get borrowed a lot?
This one, it doesn't, it's a higher reading level, but it is an actual book.
Oh, pretty cool.
We do have a Ninja Turtle comic, but I couldn't get one because they're all gone.
Oh, they're all gone. Yes. Does Ben have them?
Actually, Ninja Turtles was my thing when I was a kid. Transformers was his thing.
Okay. So you have them.
I'm the yeah. Well, no, I don't have them, but no, they get checked out pretty regularly with the kids.
Pretty cool.
Right.
Do they have a favorite Ninja Turtle? Do the kids have a favorite Ninja Turtle?
No, on my desk I have a little Leonardo eraser, and the kids always, comment on it. It was Leonardo, but they don't really tell me which Ninja Turtle is their favorite.
Okay. So when I was a kid, people hated Leonardo, but
yeah, I was never a fan of Leonardo because he's the leader. He's so bossy.
I didn't really watch a cartoon. I had the toys, so Leonardo was my favorite because he had swords. That's it. And then Raphael because he had the size. The other two don't really have cool weapons.
I liked Raphael and Donatello. I like Donatello because he had the really long stick, and it means you have to stay farther away from me. That's the way I thought about it. And I grew up really poor, so I did have a Leonardo action figure, and he was in the trench coat and he only had one arm. That was my Ninja Turtle, and yeah, I loved him.
Oh, what else you got?
Pokemon.
Oh, wow. Huh.
They are also still very popular. This one, it has the panels, but it has those, those cheap non-glossy pages.
Is it right to left?
It is.
Okay. So
and the kids love that because they're like, this book opens backwards.
It's a novelty. I love it.
Yep.
Meanwhile, when I try to read a manga, I keep on going back from left to right and getting confused. I was like, oh, right, this is the wrong way to read this. But Pokemon is still big. Like I thought, I thought
Pokemon is huge.
Really? Do they still play? Yeah. Do they still play the game?
Yeah, they still come in with their cards. Cool. My son.
Pokemon Go.
Huh?
What about Pokemon Go? Still?
I don't know. They don't mention that as much, but when my son's in middle school now, but when he was in elementary, he would bring in his Pokemon cards and they would trade during lunch and stuff.
I remember a time when if I brought cards to school, they'd get confiscated.
Now kids are bringing cell phones to school and they put them up in the corner of their desk and they use them during, for class stuff, and times have changed.
What else? What else did you bring today?
I brought bird and squirrel, like you said.
That's another animal.
It's
two animals.
Yep, and it's got.
Are they?
I haven't read this one, but it's pretty popular. It's obviously about a bird and squirrel.
Are they friends? They're best friends.
I think so. Yeah.
That's straightforward to the point. They don't even have names. There's a bird and squirrel. What is their enemy? What is that red thing?
It's a cat.
Oh, it's much bigger than them.
See? Cat.
Mm-hmm.
It says, this is squirrel. He's afraid of his own shadow. This is bird. He doesn't have a care in the world. And this is cat. He wants to eat bird and squirrel. Of course, he'll have to catch them first.
So what is the reading level on this? Is it around the same as Dogman or?
Let's see. No, Dogman has a very low reading level. It is a 290. We color code our reading levels to make it easier for the students to locate. And Bird and Squirrel is a 500. So it actually has a higher reading level.
That's interesting. Because it looks like Dogman has more panels per page. I would have thought it would be harder.
Well, the reading level that we use is called Lexile, and it has more to do with sentence structure than how many words or what the actual vocabulary is. If you look up in the top here, we have these letters.
Okay.
So while this one has easier sentences, it has harder vocabulary than this one.
Okay, so like shorter sentences, bigger words. Is that it?
Yeah, shorter, less complex sentences. Like it wouldn't have a lot of
commas, a lot of parenthetical statements.
Correct.
But that's because Bird and Squirrel has fewer panels per page and therefore has more room for words.
Bigger sentences, yeah.
That's interesting. What is Garfield's reading level?
Garfield, we do things a little differently. Technically, comic books are considered, oh my God. You just made my brain die.
Art and literature. That's what you're looking for.
It's nonfiction. It's in the nonfiction section. So
how are comic books in the nonfiction section?
Because the fiction section has a story. Let me see. I forgot how to explain this, and this is what I do all day. In a book, you there's a plot. There's a whole story. Like Dogman, there's a story.
Oh, and in Garfield, it's just strips.
It's strips. It's comic strips.
Yeah.
But now, for the comic books, we put them in the fiction section instead of the nonfiction section, just so that we can level them. Because the nonfiction section, we don't level it.
Okay.
Because we don't want kids to go into a section about animals or war or cars and not be able to get the book because it's out of their level.
Okay.
We want them to be able to get those. But Garfield is in that section, so we don't level it.
I gotcha.
However, we do have a rule to where the students can check out 2 books, but only one of them can be a comic book or nonfiction, because we want them to be getting the fiction books as well. And actually, reading the plots and the storylines and how they form.
And reading without pictures.
Well, they could still get Diary of a Wimpy Kid or Dork Diaries or Captain Underpants because they have a story.
Yeah.
It's about the story and about paragraphs, and those books do have paragraphs.
Oh, like learning how to compose paragraphs and stuff. That's important. It's important. Well, you make YouTube videos. No, I'm kidding. What else? You bring anything else?
I did. I brought 4 more before some of the newest comics. This one is called Catstronauts.
Do kids in your school prefer cats or dogs?
I'd say it's about even.
And how many are both cats and dogs?
I'm not sure.
Okay. Do boys prefer dogs or cats, and do girls prefer dogs or cats?
I'd say it's about even.
Really? Okay.
My son, my youngest, he prefers cats. He loves Catstronauts.
Very cool.
And as you can tell, it is about
cats in space.
Cats in space. They work for kind of like a NASA organization, and they go into space. It's pretty cute.
It's very cool. Are they just all cats?
They're all cats.
So like if there's a bad guy, is it a cat or no like dog or anything?
I don't really flip through. I've read these, but it was a while ago, and I don't remember anything other than cats. I just see cats.
That makes sense because it's a catastronauts. It'd be really weird if there was a dogstronaut. Very cool. What's next?
Newts.
What is that?
It is about a lizard.
See, like all of these animals, I didn't expect a lizard to show up.
I know, right? But I mean, it has some really pretty pictures.
And... This is actually like this looks like a high level comic.
Let's see, it's only a 320 reading level, but it's a K for vocabulary.
But like art wise though.
Art wise, it's beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, that looks like a big 2 comic.
Yeah, it's pretty popular too, and I really think that a lot of the appeal of some of these comics is the pictures. The students like the visuals.
Did you ever have kids just all of a sudden like start picking up a pencil, start trying to copy these? Like,
oh, you mean like draw them?
Yeah.
We have a problem with books like Diary of the Wimpy Kid or Captain Underpants. The kids like to try to color them because they have no color in them.
Because they have no color and it's empty space.
Yes, that drives us crazy.
That's bad.
Because then other kids will see that and then they're like, oh, I can color in it too.
Which you cannot, children.
Yeah, no coloring in the books.
But I mean, have some kids all of a sudden said things like, "Oh no, I want to make a comic after reading these comics"?
Oh yeah. We've had
Very cool.
I've had kids come, bring in either their book or their comic book, and they're like, "Miss Smith, can you read this and tell me if you like it?" And yeah, it's they do, some of them. I mean, they do a really amazing job.
Do they also use animals?
It was one little girl used to. We have this one little girl. She's in 4th grade now. She loves frogs.
Oh wow, that's a hard thing to draw.
For the last 3 years that I've worked there, she's come in and she's checked out every book about frogs. She loves frogs.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well then, what else is there? Is there anything about frogs?
No, I don't have any frog books, but I do have my favorite comic series ever. And we have 2 copies of these for each book in the series. Bone.
You have the whole series in the library.
2 copies of the whole series, and they're pretty popular. We have students come in and they'll start with book 1 and they'll go all the way through book 9, and they'll be like, "Do you have book 3 in?"
It's frustrating.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I know we were talking about it the other day about how it was at one time on the banned book list.
Okay, yeah, I gotta ask about that because it was at one time on the banned book list because of its portrayal of gambling and drinking.
And racism, apparently.
What? Where?
Yeah, I did. That is exactly what I said, because during my master's, I have a master's in library and information science. I had to look up a banned book and do a report on it. And I chose Bone. And it was banned for violence, political views, and racism.
Banned for political views.
I don't get it.
That's insane.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking.
The politics is that the people should be free. What the hell?
Yeah, but the racism comes from the character being completely
white?
White. I honestly,
it's not a human being. He's not a human being.
People are just they want to complain about something.
What the hell?
Yeah, Jeff Smith drew them like this because he wanted a contrast or between the backgrounds. The simple lines, and at least that's what I read.
And he created them when he was like 6.
People. I don't get it.
They're literally called bones. Bones are white.
And the violence, I mean, like, have you read Captain Underpants or some of these other
have you read literally anything?
Anything.
Like, anything.
Like, I wanted to get Mouse Guard in the media center, but I went through and I read it and I was like, okay, maybe that's a little too violent for elementary school. But Bone, no.
I think Mouse Guard would be
I think
that would be interesting, but
it's middle school. Yeah, the level. I looked it up. I was like, oh, but it's so good.
It is so good. Yeah. But with Bone, like it's still like it's what the best selling independent comic book or something for it's like it's my go-to recommendation for kids who want to read comics. Like immediately,
yeah, mine too.
Go read Bone.
Oh, I forgot.
So I have a question. I was
gonna bring I have a big Bone plushie, and I forgot to bring him.
So when these kids start reading Bone, and then they get to because like I remember reading Bone for the first time, and my nephew reading Bone for the first time. Actually, my entire family reading Bone. It's the only comic book that my entire family has read. But then so I remember reading it, and then it gets to the part where it reveals that Thorn is the princess, and Grandma Ben was the queen, and everything. And every single time we've read it, like whoever's reading it for the first time is like, "Wait, I thought this book was a comedy." So like, do the kids have like a similar reaction? Because like you basically go from like funny animals and like racing cows to like hidden kingdoms and stuff.
Nope, I've never had a kid say that they were either disappointed or shocked that it changed. I've had them, be like, "Oh my God, did you know this?" They like, kids like surprises more than adults like surprises.
No, adults hate surprises. but I mean, we expressed it in good shock. Like, wait, what the hell? This is awesome.
Yeah.
But and also 9 books, that's a commitment.
Yeah. Actually, we have some series that are well over 40 books, and kids, they some of them actually prefer series, and they will go through
the whole thing.
40
books, like what?
We have a series called Left Behind.
Oh yeah, I know that one.
They like that one. And then there's another one. I don't actually know the name of it. I just know the call number for it.
It's funny.
A lot of these books, I'll be like, oh yeah, that's an ABB, because the author's name is Abbott, and yeah, I don't remember the name of the actual book. But yeah,
40 then, books.
Warrior Cats is a pretty big series too. It's more than 9.
Is it a continuing storyline, Warrior Cats?
I think so.
Because like with Bone, like what is the reading level for Bone? Because that can get pretty.
360.
So,
but the actual, it's a J for vocabulary. Sentence structure is a 360.
So it's high sentence structure, low vocabulary. Is that it? Or do I have that backwards?
No, backwards. Or it's a low sentence structure, medium vocabulary.
That's interesting. Because like if the first time I ever read Bone was a 1-volume edition, and that's heavy. That's like reading a whole book. Like that's like reading that's like reading a non-comic book.
Yeah. Our highest vocabulary is the Pokemon with an O.
Really? Why?
Yeah. I would have to go through it and find out.
That's interesting. Is it because it's translated?
I don't think so. It's got words like strategy. It's about, the actual words. Professor, the bigger words.
It's interesting.
Oh,
I would have thought
Tapu
Bone
are angry, so it's got words that aren't real words.
Okay.
Tapu. And then next, behind that would be the Phoebe and her with an N.
Yeah.
So Again,
well, that's because Dana Simpson writes that for herself.
Yeah.
And then like if people just end up liking it, then they end up liking it.
But that's one of the reasons I like comic books, especially the ones with the bigger words, because if the student doesn't know what the word means, they can still understand the story based on the pictures.
Yeah.
And that can help them learn that word. Malfunctioning. So that's a pretty big word. That's why it's an N for elementary school.
So like, so aside from Dogman, well, so if you were to rank these, where would you say that the ranking is for the kids to be fans of them?
In popularity?
Popularity, yeah.
Dogman's definitely one. Oh my goodness.
I wonder if these kids are keeping like Dogman wikis and like keeping track of like Dogman mythology and stuff.
They know that there's a new Dogman book coming out before we know that there's a new Dogman book coming out. They will come in and they will be like, there's a new Dogman book coming out. It's coming out in July or something. And I'll be like, okay, I'll add it to my list. Yeah, I put up a little board so that they can take stickies and request books for us to buy and stick it up there. And that's how we got some of these. Actually, I think that's how we got this one.
It's very cool.
But
and then Dogman's highest, and then are you done with your list? Are you done with your list? Was Bone the last one?
I have one more, but
okay, what was it?
Well, it's not in the same category as these. I would say all the rest of them are about equal.
Really?
Well, I would say Garfield.
Except Garfield,
behind Dogman, but all the rest of them, yeah, they some students will check out Big Nate, while some students will check out Pokemon. Yeah.
Big Nate is the only one you mentioned. Wait, what's that last one first? What's that last one?
Well, for parents or teachers or whatever who don't particularly care for the comic books and the content or the talking animals, we do have comic books that are nonfiction, actual real
those
history-based comic books. And
yeah, but that's not violent at all.
I know, right? But they are actual comic books.
That's acceptable violence, apparently.
We do. I'm very much against censorship.
Yeah.
However, with that being said, we are an elementary school, so we do have to make sure that some of this stuff is appropriate. But these are elementary school appropriate. They're not going to.
So they kind of summarize things like D-Day, and then
it's basically a summary.
Kind of do the G-rated version of it, I assume.
Yeah, but then if we had a second grader come up and try to take this book, I would question it. We do have some books to where we're like, okay, we need to talk to your teacher. We did have the original Diary of Anne Frank, and I think it was a fourth or fifth grader that wanted to check it out, but we asked their parent first, because that can get kind of graphic.
So this D-Day one, where does it get filed? Would it be under nonfiction?
Yeah, it's in the war section.
Okay, so it's not with the others, essentially.
Sometimes I will rotate them, but for the most part, I do not put this one over there because second graders can get these books, and I don't really want second grader.
So if it's in the nonfiction, that means it doesn't have a level.
Correct.
Okay. Cool. And so Big Nate's the only one you mentioned that doesn't have a funny animal in it.
Right. Yeah, no talking animal.
I wonder what it is about Big Nate then, because it's an outlier now.
It's not as popular as the other ones, but it's still pretty popular. Like, where did Bad Guys go? Bad Guys is not a true comic, because it does have some comic panels.
Yeah.
But then it doesn't. But it's, again, talking animals. Look aren't talking animals. They're cavemen.
Oh, okay. I assume the dinosaurs talked in that one.
No, somebody left their bookmark. I have a collection of bookmarks on my desk. No, Ook and Gluk is let's see.
So that's interesting.
They're in the city.
That's interesting because it's like it's either it's got funny animals or it's about two friends.
Yeah.
Huh. So the way to reach out to children, people, is either to give them a friend or to give them a pet. It's essentially what it is. So let's close this off by saying what do you think of the state of comics today in terms of reaching out to a younger audience?
What do I think of the state? Like
what do you think? You think comics, the industry itself, is doing a good job, like reaching out to kids?
It depends on if you mean like superhero comics.
No, I just mean comics in general.
Geez, these comics are doing an amazing job. I mean, we just did a huge book order, and it should be here any day, and we ordered more comics. A lot. I love seeing at the beginning of the year, you know, the kids' reading scores, and then at the middle and the end of the year, how much they've gone up. And our comics do get checked out more than anything else.
And you did that. You did that for your media center.
Because I want them to be reading. I want them to be reading something.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, I don't really care what it is, as long as they're reading something and they're enjoying it. If you
got to make reading fun.
If you force a student to read and they don't like to read, they're not gonna keep doing it. You have to make it fun for them. You know, comic books help both struggling and reluctant readers because, like I said earlier, if you have a struggling reader, someone who has either ADD or ADHD or dyslexia or processing disorders, they're having troubles with the words, they can still follow the story with the pictures.
Have you encountered kids with dyslexia or those disorders?
Yeah, we have students with disorders. Like my oldest son has a processing disorder, and he's been a struggling, reluctant reader his whole life. And so I did a kind of like a case study on him and on the other students with the comic books for my master's again. And it turned out really well. And that's one of the reasons I'm such a big advocate for comic books. I've seen it, firsthand with the students who they don't want to read, or they're having a really hard time with the reading, but they start out with comic books, and I think it gets them familiar with the words and with sentence structure, and they are able to move on to the bigger books that have no pictures.
Very cool.
And that's true. With reluctant readers, they think that it's boring. I've had so many students tell me it's just boring. And so we get them the comic books, and they're funny and they have the pictures, and that helps them enjoy reading so that they will continue it for the rest of their lives.
Absolutely. And sometimes you get some artists.
Yes.
Last question about comics for kids. Is there an ideal size? Because I have this theory that, because you were saying I was talking about superhero comics, and I don't think superhero comics are doing a good job of reaching out to kids. But I think a big part of that is also just the size. Like, I feel like kids comics tend to come like a little smaller. You think it has something to do with it, maybe?
I have found, no pun intended, that size doesn't matter. As you can see, Dogman is pretty thick.
No, not thickness.
What do you mean size?
Dimensions. Like
the size of the book?
Yeah, the size of the book.
Oh,
So like something like Bandette versus something like
the difference between these?
Yeah, the difference between those.
Oh, again, I found that size.
Okay.
Doesn't matter. We have some of the Garfield books are really big, you know, and they're just as popular as the smaller ones.
Very okay.
It depends on the age of the student. Sometimes. But we have a couple of joke books that are just huge. Like they're like this thick and they're just like this big, and the students absolutely love them because I think that they think that it makes them look good to get a really big book. Like some of these kids will get Harry Potter and then bring it back the next day. I know these kids are not reading Harry Potter, but because it's like this thick, they think that it makes them look cool.
They'll borrow it. They'll go down to like one of the cafeterias, start reading it a bit, be seen reading it, and go back, give it back. That's it. All right. You got anything else to say about comics and kids?
No, just let your kids read comics.
Comics are good, people.
Yes, they are.
To other things.
Yes, they are.
And comics are not dying because clearly kids are reading them all over the place.
Yep, they're not going anywhere.
Also, support your local library.
Yes.
Thank you, Kimberly Smith.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Come back next time.